Hello and good evening. Why am I standing here dressed like a highwayman with a giant glass of whiskey in my hand instead of my usual delicate little liqueur glass? Suffice to say that I have a horrible cold, and I thought I would cheer myself up by taking on a one shot fortified by a glass of Irish whiskey. And I know it looks like not very much in here in this big glass, but I promise you it's a full shot because, as you know, the rules of the one shots are I drink a shot and then I get one shot to tell you the plot of a play, no cuts, no edits. And today I'm jumping ahead further than I ever have before and looking at an 18th century play, very, very famous. The Beggar's Opera is what we're going to do today, hence the MacHeath garb. Um, I don't think we remember the Beggar's Opera enough because it was just so massive at the time. It changed everything. It was absolutely huge, ran for ages, made a fortune, and it did this by being really the first jukebox musical. So it's a story with nothing to it, cobbled together in such a way that they could inject as many popular ballads and favourite sing-along pop songs as they possibly could into the story. So if it seems that nothing happens in Act One at all, it's you have to imagine that there are two additional things going on. One is people are singing all the time, stopping and having a little ballad. And the other thing is that goes on in this play all the way through is lots and lots of lists of miscreants, criminals, underworld figures. They get named and then it gets talked about what they are planning to do, what crime they've just committed, or how they're going to be punished if they've been arrested. So 1728 is when it was first performed, and very famously, I mean, most of you, even if you haven't heard of the Beggar's Opera, have heard of Brecht and Weil's adaptation, the Threepenny opera. So that's this story, and this is its origin, and I will now get into it. Mm. See, scared my cold right away. So, the Beggar's Opera is a three-act structure, and it begins with interest. And now this becomes important later. It begins with a prologue. You have a prologue where a beggar talks to a player about what it is they're going to present. That's all you need to know, but just don't forget that. And then we meet Peachum, Mr. Peachum, in his counting house. Now, to peach was to tattle, to dob, to turn someone in. And if you handed someone over to the police with enough evidence to get them hanged, you got a reward of £40, which must have been just astonishingly huge at that time. So Peacher makes his living by uh, running crews of thieves, by fencing stolen goods, by various kinds of deals with other underworld figures. But when people stop being useful to him, in the end, he always judges the right moment to peach, to hand them over to the coppers and reap the £40 reward. Now, the news arrives for Peachum that his only daughter Polly has just married the notorious highwayman Captain MacHeath. Mrs. Peachum brings this news, and they are extremely distressed about this because they make it very clear that marriage is the absolute worst thing that their daughter could do. So that, again, this play, there's a lot of jokes that surround the idea that most comedy theatre sees marriage as a goal, as this is the thing we want. Young couples live happily ever after. So a lot of the gags in this show are subversions of that. They point out that if Polly had just stayed his mistress, he would have continued to give her presents, lavish gifts on her, treat her nicely, be lovely to her. And now she's his wife, he'll no doubt beat her and be awful to her. And it also, and this is crucial, gives way too much power over their estate. It means if they die, Polly dies, everything goes to MacHeath. So they concoct a scheme that they will simply turn him over and he will end up hanged, and they'll have to make sure that they do that before he gets the chance to stab them in the back. Now, Polly actually loves MacHeath and is pleased to be married to him, and is not at all happy with her parents telling her that she needs to turn him over and ditch him and bolt. So she goes to see MacHeath, and she warns him that he needs to get out of town for a while she gets this figured out. And they have a tearful parting, and that's the end of Act 1. The whole of Act 1 is just that. So Act 2, then we see that MacHeath goes and finds his partners in crime, the cohort of highwaymen that he runs. And he tells them, lads, don't think that I've forgotten you or abandoned you, but I do have to go to ground for a little while until this mess with Peachum is sorted out. And they say, right you are, boss, and they clear. And then next thing, all MacHeath's cohort of other harlots come on, because you didn't think he was really settling down with Polly, did you? And he similarly wants to say goodbye to them, but they know better what to do with a chap like this, and they have actually turned him over to Peachum, so Peachum can hand him over to be arrested, and they can split the reward. And so then we shift the scene to Newgate Prison. Now, this is really bad for MacHeath, not because he's in prison, not because he is likely to be hanged, but because the jailer's daughter, Lucy Lockett, is one of the girls that he has pretty explicitly promised to marry at an earlier date. And so he knows he's in for an earful. So Lucy turns up, very cross with him. Eventually, they agree that they will go off and see if they can find the prison chaplain and get married themselves. So they exit. Then her dad, Lockett, the jailer, comes in, and Peachum arrives, and Peachum and Lockett have a whole squabble about over how they divvy up all the money that comes in from these people. They go off. Next thing, Lucy and MacHeath come back in, and Polly shows up, flings herself at her husband tearfully, and Lucy is not happy about this, and it's all terribly awkward for MacHeath. But eventually, of course, as you know, her dad is there to see Lockett, to see Lucy's dad. So he arrives and drags Polly away, and Mr. Lockett goes off as well, grumbling, and Lucy and MacHeath arrange a scheme whereby it's not much of a scheme, really. It's just, it's Lockett is going to go drinking, he's going to pass out, Lucy's going to steal his keys, and she's going to let MacHeath out. And that is Act 2. Act 3 begins with Lockett upbraiding Lucy for having done exactly what we just heard. And then it shifts again to MacHeath at a gaming house, reconnecting with his bros, and planning to just live the high life while he can. He's going to distribute his money to them. And so they all head off to a notorious bawdy house where they can enjoy themselves. Unfortunately for them, we then switch to seeing Peachum and Lockett once again making their nefarious plans together, and one of their partners in various crimes is an older woman who turns up, and it turns out she's the one who runs the bawdy house. She has seen MacHeath arrive and go upstairs with one of his preferred harlots, and so they know where he is now, so they just go off to arrest him. Now, next we have Polly pay a visit to Lucy to find out what is going on with all that, and Lucy has every intention of poisoning Polly because she does believe that Polly is actually married and therefore gets in the way of Lucy marrying MacHeath. So she has a glass of poison, tries to get her to take it, but Polly's too shrewd to drink it, and it ends up getting dropped on the ground, so that's not going to work. However, in the kerfuffle, they look out the window and they see that MacHeath is being arrested again. So now their cause is true and united because they have to go and save him from the gallows. So we switch again to the prison where each of the girls tearfully begs her father to find a way to get MacHeath out of the sticky situation he has got himself in. And then a number of his other women, well, he gets word, MacHeath this is, gets word that more and more women keep turning up with babies and so on, his previous wives from previous dalliances, and he more or less says, yeah, it's probably best if you just hang me now. So they're about to take him off to be hanged. He's right on his way to the gallows when I told you it was important to remember the beggar and the player from the beginning. The beggar and the player show up again, and the beggar. Oh no, now I can't remember who is in favour of hanging him and who isn't. I think the beggar is in favour of the rules. No, the player is in favour of the rules of poetic justice that require, and this was a law for a long time, require that if a villain is shown on stage, they aren't allowed to get away free from consequences for their crimes. If you have a bad guy on stage, he has to be punished. So the player says, well, laws of poetic justice say that MacHeath has to be hanged. And the beggar says, that can't be right because this is an opera and the rules of opera are that love finds a way and everyone ends happily. You know that. So that's what we need to do. We have to have a story where everything ends happily and there's a dance at the end. So the rules of comic opera trump the rules of poetic justice, and all the women come on stage and all MacHeath's crew come on stage, and MacHeath admits that he is in fact married to Polly and chooses to dance with her while distributing his various men among his various women, and they all have a jolly dance at the end. That's it. That's the whole thing.